tuned into Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, Southside Streeters, Hot Rods and Howick, a one-club car show. And where does your fossil fuel burning V8 fit with the government's climate change agenda? We meet the man behind the organisation tackling that question head on. But before that, don't let first impressions fool you. This truck proves that beauty is more than skin deep. Thanks to Niedercar, meet Ross and his split personality 55 GMC pickup.
Yeah, it's always been cars from a really young age. Not fussy on, I'm not forward holding, just love everything cars. Yeah, it's definitely just a bug we can't shake. I don't even try to get out of it, to be fair. It's just a way of life, and it's probably not going to change, to be honest.
Yep, Ross has the auto bug as bad as they get, and he wasn't exaggerating the lack of bias. The low-slung GMC is why we're here, but its stablemates range wildly from a big block Buick to a 20B RX3 coupe with a side of RX7 drift car. Four-wheel drives are in the mix too. Ross and his wife operate both four-wheel drive warehouse and RPM performance. Yep, he's in deep. And when he decided he might need a pickup in his life, that too wouldn't be half done. A scheme that would lead Ross to a truck-shaped pile of parts on TradeMe.
Loved it, wasn't very rusty. All the parts were there that we needed to do the build. So yeah, jumped at it.
And the grand plan?
The paint was always going to stay the same on the outside. You can't recreate it, so I wasn't going to change it. It had to sit on the ground, and I was always going to be Detroit steel wheels, so that was a no-brainer. The engine was sort of sat on for a while, went over a few options, big blocks and LS's, and I just want something that's not so precious, I suppose. You don't have to clean every time you take it out, you just get in, drive it. You see it plenty in America, you take a lot of inspiration from them and then chuck the Kiwi touch on it.
While the finish weathered and baked in by Mother Nature for 6 decades is a big part of the GMC's character, it's also the most confusing.
When are you going to paint it, or please don't paint it? 99% of people will ask you one or the other.
But for this GMC, beauty is more than skin deep, and the truck's mottled panels conceal a lot of clever engineering and a lot of hours. This was the domain of Matt Hayter of Topors Hayter Precision Metalworks, the man tasked with overseeing the pickup's build. With the truck on Matt's workshop floor, the first step was to order those 20-inch Detroit steel wheels so he could get started on dropping the GMC much closer to the ground. A TCI Mustang 2 independent front end wasn't deemed up to scratch to start with, so was given the Hayter treatment before being grafted onto the box chassis. Out back, a big C-notch clears a Ford 9-inch diff located by a custom fabricated four-link. Ride-Tech's Shockwave airbags all round sees the GMC drop to new lows. For Matt, the fact that this was all to be hidden under an as-found truck body was no excuse to cut any corners.
Yeah, he's super switched on for this kind of thing. He's honest, he's a hard worker. I couldn't rate him high enough, to be fair. He did a bloody awesome job.
Pop the hood, and this split personality GMC's alter ego becomes far more apparent. Chev's 6.2-litre LS3 was given the nod for motivation, backed by a Tremex 6-speed. But it's the presentation that's the talking point, and it's in stark contrast to the truck's exterior.
When people come up, have a look at it, and then they look on the tray, they see the tray, and then they look in the interior, and they see the interior, and they're sort of blown away, and then you pop the hood, look under there, and yeah, people are gobsmacked, and compared to the outside, it's a totally different truck underneath and inside.
But it's not so pretty it gets a pass from heavy lifting.
Yeah, definitely no trailer queen. I'll happily do skids in it, scrape it over bumps and whatnot. No, it gets used and it gets abused and it loves it.
So, with a clear objective from day one to make this GMC look like just an original old truck that's been dropped over some big wheels, but one that upon closer inspection reveals the true quality of its engineering and metalwork, well, it's fair to say that mission has been more than accomplished.
Oh, probably above expectations, to be fair. Matt's just done an incredible job. We sourced a lot of as much as we could locally, paint, interior, wiring. Everyone's just went above and beyond to make it what it is.
But while this truck might be finished, there's one thing for certain. Ross sure isn't.
I'd say the car bug's going to get worse. I sort of always had in mind to maybe get one in every decade, a car from every decade. So I think we're slowly ticking it off, actually.
Right, this week's Mount Shop Shed Raid is a wee bit different. Sure, we're in a shed, but we're talking to Andrew Ferrier-Kerr from the Special Interest Vehicle Association of New Zealand, or SIVANZ, a volunteer organisation established with the goal of creating a collective voice for the owners of special interest vehicles, the hobbyists, if you will. And with that voice, a game plan to convince the government that the type of cars you see on TV shows like this one deserve special recognition. They shouldn't be lumped in with the masses of fossil-fueled commuter vehicles, the vehicles firmly in policymakers' sights as the obvious fall guys in the quest for lower emissions. Sound all a bit serious? Well, Andrew's here to tell you, yes, it is.
The problem that special interest vehicle owners have right now is the changes that are being driven out of government initiatives around climate change. Whether we agree or not, we're involved in that discussion. We have to engage in it. If we want to preserve what we've got with our vehicles, we need to engage and talk about it. We need to let the government know that we are here, we are unique. We need to help the government differentiate us in a way that doesn't damage their plans for lower emission targets. That's our goal. Work with the government, understand us, we understand them, and come up with the right solution, the right balance.
The Paris Accord is a 2016 agreement within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, signed by 195 country representatives, including New Zealand. Under the agreement, each country is tasked with doing their bit to substantially reduce the risks and impacts of climate change, notably through restrictions around emissions. New Zealand's response includes turning our attention to fossil-fueled vehicles. For Andrew, a Waikato hot rodder, and yes, a man who also has a busy day job, the concern was that the reference to fossil-fueled vehicles was one written with a very broad brush.
A real shift in language. It wasn't clean car versus dirty car, but clearly since then there is a strong focus on low emission vehicles, and everybody else is really dirtying the atmosphere. And that's where the special interest vehicle fraternities sit. We're in that fossil fuel area, and we've got a double negative in some ways in that we are also part of the aged fleet. We're only about 8% of the aged fleet, which is 4.3 million. We're a drop. That's the current conversation now with government and other groups. How do we reduce the aged vehicle fleet? We're in that fleet, so we need to make sure we stand out and have a voice.
Andrew estimates there's around $5 billion worth of special interest vehicles in our garages and sheds around the country. That's not just the muscle cars, hot rods and street machines you see on this TV show, but any hobby-type vehicle, hence the special interest or SIV tag. That doesn't include the country's many supporting businesses who would also be affected by any restriction applied to usage of these vehicles.
Getting access to even fossil fuel could become a problem. They're still going to make it. No, everyone's going to think, oh, we're still making fossil fuel. Well, of course we are. It's not going to run out in probably a long, long time. But we may not get access to it. Not just special interest vehicle guys necessarily, but anyone that has a fossil fueled vehicle may not get the right access to it. It's worth fighting for. And that's why we started with a few of us talking about what we're going to do. What's our action step? Will we be happy going to our grave doing nothing? And the answer was no. So we had to do something.
SIVANZ's goal of putting a voice to the special interest vehicle community isn't going to be one without its challenges. SIVANZ works off a membership-based model. If you want a voice, you need to be counted. And that's perhaps not as easy as it sounds. Here's an example. Whangamata's annual beach hop. Just one event on the calendar, but one that brings well over 100,000 car lovers to the region. An event that only targets pre-72 vehicles, mostly of American origin. We're in good shape then, right? Well, yes, but on paper, the collective that perhaps best represents this specific automotive niche has just a fraction of those people as members. Clearly, we're not an easy crowd to round up, and some would argue that we are the more cohesive sector of the wider special interest vehicle community.
So they don't belong to clubs, they don't belong to any national organisation of any sort, so they are invisible and they've got no voice. They're the ones that we're most concerned about. How do we get them engaged in that conversation? It doesn't have to be with Savans necessarily, but just engage in some other organisation which enables that organisation to go and fight on your behalf, because a fight's coming. Our past apathy isn't working anymore. So blasé, we absolutely are. Is it going to happen to us? I don't think so. Yes, it is happening to us right now. And to talk about this with your friends in the pub or at work, across the table or across the spanner in some workshop and go, oh, it won't happen in our lifetime. Well, actually it's happening right now. This is on us right now, and we just want people to be aware of it, firstly, and talk about it. And then they have to act. Each man or woman in the special interest vehicle fraternity needs to take an action step. Talking about it does not work anymore.
To join or to get more info on the Special Interest Vehicle Association of New Zealand, visit savans.co.nz.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage. Right, thanks to Maguire's, we're off to a hot rod show with a bit of a difference. You see, while at a glance Hot Rods and Howick might look like any other show in a community hall, the impressive thing here is that these are all cars belonging to members of the same club, Southside Streeters. Auckland-based and closing in fast on 50 years, Southside Streeters boast some of New Zealand's best vehicles within their ranks.
I think the club has evolved and even, dare I say, matured. I think we probably all have, to a degree, sadly. Members of clubs, it's a really good thing. Good camaraderie. You've got to be a little outgoing. I mean, we definitely, we have a lot of fun, and you've got to be pretty hardy to be in this club. I mean, some people would come along and go, wow, what's wrong with those guys? They're arguing, and there's a lot of banter goes on. But it's all in jest, and we do have a lot of fun.
You learn a lot in a club, and that's what a club does. It's sort of a bit like a big family. They sort of look after you, and then they laugh at you too when you make mistakes and stuff. So well, that's part of it.
And the Southside Streeters are no strangers to your screens either. You've seen a fair few of them right here on Teng Tools Muscle Garage, like Ian Neary's Eruption, a Viper-powered Plymouth GTX with a stunning amount of customization and detailing. Sean Williams' 33 Roadster is in the same vein, a highly modified 33 Ford built to the highest level. Brian Matthews' 59 Galaxy is one heck of a sleeper. The rough and ready body hides some serious engineering in the form of an Art Morrison chassis and angry Boss 598. Lou Picton's builds have a social following that'd make many a New Zealand A-lister jealous. His 69 Camaro incorporates a Roadster Shop chassis and supercharged LS7, while the next build looks every bit as angry and then some. Dubbed Eleanor, the Mustang's aggressive steel bodywork will be home to a monster 428 cube twin-turbo Nelson Racing engines mill. Royce Everett's 32 Ford is a freshly finished car, The Max speed-built Hemi-powered roadster took Chip Foose's choice at the recent CRC Speed Show. So, serious cars, yes, but it's not all about the vehicles. Southside Streeters is, in a few cases, a multi-generational club, and much pride is taken in the support afforded to the young guns coming through the ranks. They're quite rightly viewed as the future of the hobby.
We don't want to see this die at all. You know, you see the cars that are here today and they're all in a stunning testament to all the owners. You want to try and see this progress through to the next generation, if you will. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing a lot of younger guys in these sort of cars.
I've kind of grown up around cars all my life. Dad's been into hot rodding since he was a young guy. He's been part of Southside Hot Rod Club for quite a few years, so it was kind of like I guess a natural progression for me since I've been involved in it and around it for so long for me to get my own car.
It's in our veins. Dad got the 56 a month after I was born and did a 10-year rebuild similar to what I've done on mine through my sort of whole growing up, so there was no option for me but to get into one of these.
We do encourage the young guys, it's very important. And without them, I mean, we're all starting to get to the sharp end now. Yeah, they are an important part of the club and we want to encourage that.
Yeah, the young guys are definitely pushed pretty hard by the club too. Like, we're really encouraged to get involved and supported through the club. A lot of guys from the club helped me build my car. Showing an interest in that sort of spurs you along to keep going too. So definitely trying to get as many young guys as we can into it.
Perhaps the biggest barrier to that is one we hear often: cost. But there's a workaround, a bit of thinking outside the box.
So it's a 1965 Ford Falcon Futura, come from Arizona about 2.5 years ago, running a 289 small block Ford with a C4 trans behind it. Originally, me and my old man wanted a Chevy Nova, but the more we looked, the more we couldn't actually afford one. So we actually started looking at Falcons, and they were kind of in the right price range. Bodywork I don't plan on changing. Eventually I'm going to put some disc brakes on it to make it a bit safer to drive, lower it a little bit, but as you see it is as it's going to stay.
And for his clubmate Chris, when the family garage includes not only this 33 Roadster, but also a well-known and well-travelled 56 Chev, there's little chance of escape either.
1963 Impala, had it for probably 8-9 years. It was blue when I first got it, a little bit of rust and stuff like that. Ended up blowing up a gearbox, pulled off the road and had the great idea to paint it. One thing led to another and yeah, the body came off the chassis and did a complete full rebuild. Learned a lot and yeah, got the sort of the result that I've got today, which I'm absolutely wrapped with. It's been my dream car since I was probably 10. As much as I don't like to admit it, it was a Snoop Dogg video of watching them bouncing down the road that I absolutely fell in love with, and I said one day I will own a car like that. My first car was actually a 66 Mustang that I brought. One of the guys from the club here actually helped me get into that, and that was just a stepping stone to come through into the Impala, which is always the goal at the end of the day.
And while Doug might not be considered part of the club's youth anymore, the debut of his 1928 Model A was certainly influenced by his.
Yeah, when we were kids growing up, we used to love getting the Weet-Bix packets, and all the hot rod used to be in the Weet-Bix, you know, the cards. And I just thought back, I'd like to build a car that, you know, I liked when I was a kid. You could say a bit of everything. My idea of a hot rod is everything you like. We've got metal flake, and we've got a bit of lace, and we've got a bit of timber, we've got a bit of chrome, we've got a bit of aluminium, and yeah, just things that you dream up at night time.
And impressively, the car is very much owner-built. And that's not to say Doug had the skills ready to go either. The Model A represents a lot of learning.
My idea of hot rod is you've got to do a lot yourself within the scope of certification, but all those things you should just try and do it, even though you make a mess of it sometimes, and you have to do it again and then again, and you could have paid someone to do it half the price, but no, the idea is to do it and teach yourself new skills and just try, because that's what I think you should do these days.
And the hot rod was a bit of a hit at the Howick show. No small feat given its company of Southside Streeters' finest. And it wasn't all to show off either, with all proceeds from hot rods at Howick going to the club's charity of choice, St John's. Good stuff. Your ride needs some love? We've got you sorted. Thanks to our mates at Maguire's, we have this massive complete car care pack worth $700 to give away, plus a $500 mount shop voucher to keep the underside shipshape too. And to top it off, a 1-year subscription to NZ V8 magazine. To enter, simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. The winner will be drawn at the end of the series. Easy. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.